Kicking a drug or alcohol addiction is never easy, but new research by Anglicare to be released next week has found addicts would have a better chance of kicking the habit if they're involved in setting up their own treatment program. The Tasmanian government has already said it plans to change the way it treats addicts because of the research, as Fiona Breen reports.
When I was using or drinking, well, I used to drink 3 casks of wine a day. If I couldn't get that, I used to drink anything I could get my hands on. I've been on the White Lady, metho. So then I've turned to the drugs. I used to be on speed whiz. Then I got onto anything I could pump in my arms.
Rodney Bomber Crosswell is not shy about admitting he's a former drug and alcohol addict with a long history of abuse. 14 months clean, he now has a job as a full-time groundsman for the Salvation Army, the organisation that helped pull him through the tough times. At 54, he's even surprised he's still alive.
You don't automatically just use for the sake of using. You know, there's always an underlying figure why someone turns to that sort of stuff. Mine was put in the institution at 4 years old, left there till 15, in jail at 15 and a half. You know, had no trust or loyalty to anyone because the people that are supposed to take care of you abused that trust.
New research by Anglicare Tasmania recommends people like Bomber play more of a proactive role in their treatment for drug and alcohol addiction. The research looks at experiences in the UK which have had good results.
There's been a big growth in small consumer groups who are involved in pressing for change at a local service level. And interestingly, and one of the most exciting aspects of that is that consumers are beginning to identify gaps in the services that are available and set up services themselves to meet those needs.
In the UK, giving addicts a voice is now seen as a necessary part of kicking the habit.
Consumers' contact with the criminal justice system, which is reduced, consumer satisfaction with services, which increases, and also their retention in services.
Painting the wall at this out.
Okay. Bomber Crosswell's not surprised. He was vocal during his last treatment with the Salvation Army's Bridges program, and he says it was empowering.
It doesn't matter how much brains or how much qualifications you got. If you haven't been there, you don't know it all. You know, I mean, a person that's been on the street and used has enough nous and enough brain to know what's going to fix them.
It was at his suggestion that they set up a peer support recovery group, a first for the organisation. Current and past addicts now get together weekly to support each other.
Bomber, I guess, is a very strong personality as well. And he also can take on the role of representing other people. So I guess because of being that strong personality, people will go to him for him to be their voice as well.
Addiction to alcohol is still the biggest problem in Tasmania. About 1/3 or 38% of people seeking treatment are alcoholics. 34% are cannabis users. 12% have an addiction to amphetamines and 11% to opioids or prescription drugs. With waiting lists long, service providers are under the pump. And while they all support the idea of a more proactive addict, the goodwill doesn't always transpose into action. Anglicare wants service providers to go a lot further.
Most service providers would have low-level activities like a suggestion box, like a one-off survey about what consumers think about services, but there's very little involvement in making decisions about what those services actually look like.
Tasmania's at the very preliminary stages of following the UK's lead. After a review, the state government has funded Advocacy Tasmania to encourage treatment providers to get addicts more involved. Advocacy Tasmania will also talk to addicts in treatment.
We want and expect that consumers be more strongly engaged in their own care, and then following that, provide advice to how services could be improved, and then we'll be the agent in providing that advice to the services and assist in some of the service improvement ideas.
So far, Advocacy Tasmania's experiences mirror the findings in the Anglicare report, that attempts by organisations to engage addicts in how their programs are run is ad hoc. That's why Anglicare wants the addict's voice to become a requirement in contracts awarded to drug and alcohol services.
The experience in the UK has shown that unless you tie it to funding, it's unlikely to be implemented consistently.
They think it's so crucial that addicts have a voice, Anglicare want it enshrined in law, with consequences for organisations not meeting standards. The government's drug and alcohol service supports consumer involvement, but warns there's work still to be done.
It's going to happen. It's just the manner in which we now apply that evidence, the recommendations from the report. It will happen. It's just the model that how we design the model is yet to be, I think, really worked through.
For Bomber Crosswell, drug and alcohol addiction has resulted in a tough life, either locked up in jail or living on the streets. While the craving is still there, treatment has taught him to keep it at bay. He's now rebuilding his life, taking it one day at a time.
Well, I think my future is pretty bright at the moment, and I will never turn back to putting the pick in my arm. That I am sure of.